So yes everyone, this is an Android tablet. This is the OnePlus Pad 3, and as a lifelong iPad user and as somebody who uses their iPad Pro as their main computer, I kind of wanted to see how the other side lived by getting the latest and greatest of an Android tablet and what Android has to offer, and like I said, that's the OnePlus Pad 3. Let's talk about it. But now before we continue, if you do enjoy comparisons like this one to see what it's like to live on the Android side, definitely consider subscribing to the channel for more videos like this and leave a comment down below of what other tablets I should try next as an iPad user. So let's start off with the specs because this is a beautiful piece of hardware. You know, put Android aside, forget about iPad OS. If I'm just looking at this from a piece of hardware standpoint and as a tablet, this has everything that you would want out of a high-end tablet. So you're dealing with a 13.2-inch LTPS LCD display, so it's not AMOLED, but it's still plenty bright and still gives you all the color contrast that you would need from this large display. And what's nice about this display is that it's a 144 Hz and a 315 pixel per inch or PPI, so again, super saturated, super crispy, very bright, even though it isn't AMOLED, and the 144 Hz makes it extra smooth when you are dealing with any animations or going through the operating system and kind of just going through your flow. And then when it comes to a chipset, this is rocking the latest and greatest. You're dealing with a Snapdragon 8 Elite chip, which again, from a tablet standpoint and from an Android standpoint, whatever you throw at it, for the most part, it will be able to handle. And the fact that it has 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of onboard storage is a cherry on top to make sure that it handles everything that you download from the Play Store or whatever you're managing from a web browser standpoint as well. And again, as we continue with the hardware, I do want to call out some standouts of what impressed me overall over the last couple weeks of me using this thing, especially coming from an iPad. So first and foremost is going to be battery life. The standby time on this thing is absolutely insane. I remember I used it pretty heavily for about 3 or 4 days, then left it alone and I was at 90% battery, left it alone for 3 or 4 days over a long weekend, came back and I only lost like 3%. On the iPad side, that would be a completely different story. Even if I wasn't running iPadOS 26, the standby time on the iPad, while it's still decent, is not nearly as good or as impressive as this OnePlus Pad was with this 12,000 mAh battery. And then on top of that, it's got its SuperVOOC fast charging, which supports up to 80 watts of fast charging. It brings the compatible brick in the box as well, so you don't need to go out and buy an external battery pack or an external power adapter to get the 80 watts of fast charging, and you can go from 0 to 100 in about an hour and 15 minutes with that fast charging. So again, if you think the 12,000 mAh battery isn't enough, then you also have the 80 watt fast charging, but again, 12,000 mAh in a tablet in combination with that fast charging, but this is a battery life champ when it comes to tablets. And then you have the speakers. Again, coming from the iPad, I'm going to keep referencing and contextualizing this for myself. The iPad has a great quad speaker system. It's very punchy, it's very bassy, and very impressive for how loud it gets in that thin body. But this thing is even more impressive because it's got 8 speakers instead of 4. It does have 4 woofers and 4 tweeters, giving you the same kind of bass and functionality and those wide ranges. So again, if you are using this out loud, if you want to play some music out loud, this can for the most part fill a small room with a few people and you'll be able to hear everything and hear it very clearly and still have a good listening experience. So if you want the best speakers in a tablet, I think it might go to this OnePlus Pad 3. So now, what has my experience been like with this OnePlus Pad 3? And overall, it's been pretty good, right? Again, if you kind of get rid of the workflow standpoint, because I've created a workflow for my iPad Pro and the way that I use it with all my different accessories and the different kind of supplemental ecosystem devices, if you just put these together in a silo, they do pretty much the same thing. They both have their different app stores, which is great, so you do have an abundance of different applications to go from. The operating systems themselves are very familiar, even the settings menus look familiar, and the functionality, the accessibility settings. You do have floating windows, you have the same type of attachment, so you have a keyboard and trackpad attachment, which gives you that same type of experience as the Magic Keyboard does on the iPad Pro side. So there's a lot of similarities in the experience, while albeit it's not one-to-one because the ecosystem is very different and I'm so full in on the Apple ecosystem. If I was full in on the OnePlus or the Android ecosystem, the comparative benefits will start to add up if I do go full-fledged on the Android ecosystem. But in my opinion, you have pretty much everything that you would need in terms of the different tools you would have out of the Play Store compared to the iOS App Store. So you have LumaFusion exists on this thing compared to the LumaFusion that's on the iPad. Sure, it's probably a little bit more optimized for the iPad, but it still works as LumaFusion as a video editor. There is an alternative to Affinity Photo. The Blackmagic camera app also exists on Android. So there's a lot of different things that you could use or get alternatives for on the Android side that will make this hardware still hum along very nicely, and you can definitely use this as some sort of computer replacement or laptop replacement, especially if you have the accessories like the trackpad and keyboard combo, as well as their Stylo 2, which is going to be their pencil version or their stylus version. But what's interesting about this price offering and the offering that OnePlus is giving us is that This is a better comparison to have from a price point perspective with the iPad Air, because this thing is $699, you get those 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, versus on the iPad Air side, the larger model, which I believe is going to be $799, which you could get for $699 on Amazon if you really want to compare them apples to apples, but you get way more from a hardware perspective. So from a price standpoint, you're getting iPad Pro type of hardware, but at the iPad Air level, and that's something to consider. And then on top of that, right now during their pre-order for $699, you can also get the stylus as well as the keyboard case for free, which I think is a $200 and then a $100 value, so it's about $300 worth of value, and you don't have to worry about getting additional accessories. Everything will work perfectly out of the box, which is awesome to see. And you can even choose to get the folio case if you want to, as opposed to the keyboard case, but I would just opt for the keyboard case because it's way better value and changes the experience of how you use this as not just a tablet, but also a laptop style experience. So what have I learned from my experience using the OnePlus Pad 3? My experience is that 95% of the use cases are pretty much overlapped, right? You can get pretty much any application, all the mainstays. Of course, it's an Android tablet, so Chrome and Gmail and Google and Gemini and all that good stuff works amazingly on this tablet. It's smooth, and it can definitely replace something like a MacBook Air or a netbook or something they just bring around with you for emailing and communication and Slack and even some more intensive work, because again, it does have the chipset to edit videos, to edit some photos, use Affinity Photo, be able to get that stuff done. It all works beautifully on this OnePlus Pad 3, but will I be switching over to it? I will not be switching over to it, but it's at no detriment to OnePlus. It's more so just the ecosystem, right? I'm fully into the Apple ecosystem. I use my iPhone for everything, I use my iPad for everything, and I could probably try to squeeze this into my workflow in some shape, way, or fashion, but it's just not going to work as efficiently. Now again, as I said earlier, if I do go full-fledged on the OnePlus ecosystem or go full-fledged into Google and Android, then yeah, this would be the tablet that I would recommend, the tablet that I would choose, because it checks off every single box that you would want, and the price point is absurd. At $699, you're not getting nearly the amount of hardware that you're getting on the other side with the Samsungs of the world as well as the Apples of the world. So for $699, being able to get the tablet, 12 gigs of RAM, 256 storage, fast charging, amazing battery life, amazing standby time, 144 Hz display, 3.4K display, and you have a selfie camera as well as a rear-facing camera for document scanning. I don't really talk about the cameras too much because again, they're just there for kind of Zoom calls, video chatting, and then document scanning, because I'm not going to be using this to take pictures of stuff I'm going to share online, but that's to each their own. So let me know in the comment down below what you think. Is $699 justified for this thing? Would you ever get an Android tablet? Have you used an Android tablet before? I know we're in the Apple world here and this is a Mac channel and an iPad channel, but I just really wanted to see what it was like. I hadn't used an Android tablet in 5 or 6 years now at this point. I haven't touched the Samsung tablets because again, I didn't really feel the need to, but this was a great offering and something that I just wanted to see what it was like living on the other side for a little while. But I'll leave this link down below for anybody that wants to check it out. Shout out to OnePlus for sending this over to test out, but they're seeing this at the same time that you are. But that'll do it for this video. If you guys made it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. And if you want to watch more videos like this, check out one of these videos right here. Until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace, everyone.